Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We're coming together on the 9th or the 8th, depending on your reckoning, of the 11th month, which is our Shabbat, the second of this month, if I remember correctly. And we are having the good pleasure of reading, or the tov pleasure of reading 4th Ezra, also known as 2nd Esdras. They have it as 1st Esdras here, and I don't know why. But maybe they have that switched. In 4th Ezra, they have his 1st Esdras, and 3rd Ezra, they have his 2nd. I'm not certain. I thought it was the other way, just so you know, though. But without further ado, here we go. And if you remember, Ezra, what came back during the time of the second wave for rebuilding the wall and finishing the building, in this book, we get to see more in depth the visions that he saw, the things revealed to him, and the fact that he is currently like Hanok and Baruk and everyone who's like them in paradise waiting for the consummation. We get inside information on what it takes to be that type of person to our creator in this book and in second Baruch in particular. We also get to see more about our times through visions. So, Father willing, we'll be able to comprehend these things as we go. All right, so this is chapter 1. The second book of the foreteller Ezra, the son of Sariah, the son of Azariah, the son of Hilkiah, the son of Shalom, the son of Zadok, the son of Achitub, the son of Achiyah, the son of Phinehas, the son of Eli, the son of Amariah, the son of Azariah, son of Mirioth, son of Arna, son of Uzi, son of Borith, son of Abishua, son of Phinehas, son of Eleazar, the son of Aharon of the tribe of Lui, which was captive in the land of the Medes, in the reign of Artaxerxes, the sovereign of the Persians. And Artaxerxes is the one that married Esther, or yeah, I do believe that's the one that married Esther. And the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Go and declare to my people their sinful deeds, and their children their wickedness, which they have done against me, that they may tell their children's children, because the sins of their fathers are increased in them, for they have forgotten me and have offered to strange mighty ones. Was it not I who brought them out of the land of Mitzrayim, out of the house of bondage? But they have angered me and despised my counsels. Pull out the hair of your head and hurl all evils upon them, for they have not obeyed my Torah. They are a rebellious people. How long shall I forbear them, on whom I have bestowed such great benefits? For their sake I have overthrown many sovereigns. I struck down Pharaoh with his servants and all his army. I have destroyed all the nations before them, and scattered in the east the people of two provinces, Tyre and Sidon. I have slain all their enemies. But speak to them, saying, Thus declares Yahuwah, surely it was I who led you through the sea, and made safe the highways for where you were and made safe the highways for where you were. There was no road. I gave you Moshe for a leader, and Aharon for a Kohen. I gave light for you from a pillar of fire, and did great wonders among you. Yet you have forgotten me, declares Yahuwah. Thus says Yahuwah Elohim. The quails were for a sign to you. I gave you tents for your safeguard. Nevertheless, in them you murmured, complained. Just so you know, In the account of Exodus, specifically throughout almost the entire book, when you have Yahuwah talking to Moshe, telling him what to do, and then Moshe going and doing the thing that he was enjoined with Aaron, if you pay careful attention, you only get half of the account in every event, where it's either Yahuwah telling him what to do and say, and then you see the accompanying events happen without him doing that, or you'll see Moshe going and doing the thing that he's enjoined without actually getting the instructions. In the Dead Sea Scrolls and in other writings, they found the Samaritan Pentateuch. It's been found that there's missing sections where it actually has the full writing, and they postulate it was removed because it's redundant, where it literally says what he tells them to do, and then they go and do exactly what they're told, and then the things happen. And that happens again and again and again the entire time, to the point where when you see Moshe, he's told to speak to the rock and not strike it, but then he strikes it. It's like, there's a huge contrast, and it's very easily apparent that it did not go according to what was all the way before it. And then you see the consequences of that. But it's kind of muddied in the version that we have. However, in the missing section, which um, there's a brother online that made a PDF showing that and some other writings. I can share that PDF with you. I intend to put all this together in a PDF in the book of Exodus to complete it, actually. So it's one seamless reading, Father willing. But until then, I can send that to you and you can see the sections that are missing. All right, we'll continue on chapter 16, or verse 16. It says, "And you triumphed not in my name at the destruction of your enemies, but even to this yom you still murmur and complain. Where are the benefits which I bestowed on you? When you were hungry and thirsty in the wilderness, did you not cry to me, saying, Why have you led us into this wilderness to kill us? It had been better for us to have served the Mitzrayim than to die in this wilderness. Then I had pity upon your mournings and gave you manna to eat. So you ate the bread of Malachim, or messengers. When you were thirsty, did I not cleave the rock so that waters flowed in abundance to your fill? I was just sharing with Brother Jackson Safant and the congregation of Elohim on the phone conference. He was going over Exodus 16 and actually covering how that shows the calendar information in it. But he was just talking about these things and reading a little bit about what happened leading up to the events in chapter 15 as well. And something that caught my eye, when you remember what these things represent, after he delivered the children out of bondage, he led them to the place where there was 12 springs and 70 palm trees. And that's reminiscent of after bringing them out of bondage, giving them the truth, he anoints the emissaries and then the 70. And then they go out to provide for all the people. After that, he leads them on, and the rock is struck so that the waters can come out. And that's reminiscent of our Mashiach being impaled and then giving the Ruach. So all these things follow suit with what he came at and walked out later. If we can see that, then it starts making so much more sense. So as we read these things, try to keep that in mind. But he says, to continue, because of heat, I covered you with the leaves of trees. I divided a fruitful land amongst you. I cast out the Canaanim, the Perizzim, and the Philistine before you. What more can I do for you, says Yahuwah? Thus says Yahuwah Elohim, when you were in the wilderness, at the bitter waters, being athirst and blaspheming my name. I did not send fire upon you for your blasphemies, but cast a tree into the water and made the water sweet. What shall I do to you, O Jacob, and you, Yahuda, who would not obey me? I will turn to other nations, and to them I will give my name, that they may keep my statutes. Seeing you have forsaken me, I will forsake you. When you desire me to be lovingly kind to you, I shall have no loving kindness upon you. When you call upon me, I will not listen to you, for you have defiled your hands with blood, and your feet are swift to commit murder. It is not as though I had forsaken you, but you have forsaken me, says Yahuwah. Thus says Yahuwah, the Almighty. Have I not entreated you as a father entreats his sons, or as a mother her daughters, or a nurse her young children, that you would be my people, and I should be Yahuwah your Elohim, that you would be my children, and I should be your Abba. I gathered you together as a hen gathers her chickens under her wings. But now what shall I do to you? I will cast you out from my presence. If you can recall, our Mashiach himself said that he desired to gather us as a hen gathers her chickens under her wings, but we would not. He says, when you offer oblations to me, I will turn my face from you, for I have rejected your shalom feast, or your solemn feast days, your new months, or even as they call them, the new moons, and your circumcisions of the flesh. A lot of people like to overlook this part and still find fault with what Shaul was teaching, but it was foretold over 400 years before our Mashiach came. And he says, I sent to you my servants the foretellers, whom you have taken and slain and torn their bodies in pieces, and their blood I shall require of you, says Yahuwah. Thus says Yahuwah Elohim, your house is desolate. I will drive and cast you out as wind does chaff, and your children shall not be fruitful, for they have despised my commandments and have done deeds that are evil in my sight. Your houses I will give to a people that shall come, which not having heard of me, yet shall believe me, to whom I have shown no signs, yet shall they do that which I have commanded them. They have seen no foretellers, yet they shall recall their former iniquitous sinful state to remembrance and acknowledge them. And if you remember what it says in the chapter 1 of Yobelim, if you don't know, you should read it. But he's talking about these same events. After all these things come upon us for us not listening, then we will confess not only our own error, but the errors of our fathers, those that came before us, and then turn to him with all of our heart, all of our mind, all of our being, and all of our strength. Sometimes, yes, Almighty would translate into Elohim, but that's not the word that was originally used here. For whatever reason, the author of this PDF translates what should be Elohim into Almighty. I don't know why. I'd have to ask the gentleman. All right, to continue, verse 37. It says, I call to witness the gratitude of the free unmerited favor of the people to come, whose little ones rejoice in gladness. And though they have not seen me with bodily eyes, yet in Ruach they believe the thing that I say. And now, Father, behold what splendor, and see the people that come from the east. To them I will give as leaders Abraham, Yitzhak, and Jacob, and Husha. That could be Yahushua or Hosea, Husha the foreteller, Husha and Amos, and Micah or Micah, and Yahuel, and Obed Yahu, and Yonah, Nahum and Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi, who is also called the messenger of Yahuwah. My children and I recently went through this, and we read this account in the chapter there, and then we decided to go through the accounts in Scripture in order. We already have covered and we talked about Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. And if you recall, it's the three ages, like the three measures of leaven that the woman hides until all is leavened. And it's about the three different times in which he's going to work with his children. Abraham was before they were given the covenant at Mount Sinai, what he represented and walked out. Yitzhak was the promised seed who never left the land, culminating in the giving of the covenant at the 15th of the third month and the renewing or the being born again on the same Yom, the 15th of the third month. And then Yaakov is the one who goes outside of the land to labor for his family and his possessions and then to return. But after you read those, then you read these in order, and it helps to get a clear picture of why, what happened to the children, where they went, what it's going to take for them to come back. Including, if you recall what Yonah is all about, it's when his children would not serve him and would not preach to the lost, so they were swallowed up in the belly of the sea monster. That very thing happened to his children in a corporate body. But there's more you can see from reading through these and taking the time to study it in that capacity. I highly recommend doing so. Chapter 2. Thus says Yahuwah, I brought this people out of bondage, and I gave them my commandments through my men servants, the foretellers. But they would not listen to me, but despised my counsels, made it void. The mother who bore them says to them, Go your way, you children, for I am a widow and forsaken. Before I read the rest of this, I want to point out, we'd already mentioned before, the mother of us all, the Shamayim Yarushelim, or what they call the heavenly Jerusalem in modern English there, it represents the Malkuth Shamayim. It's the moon in his works in parable form. The mother of Yahusuf was the moon, and then we also see that the moon was what Yahuda grabbed hold of, and he got the earthly rain. So the idea is that the moon, which is our mother where we dwell, was attached to the earthly rain, and you can see by her waxing full of light during the reigns of Dawid, during the reign of Shlomo, where there was obedience, there's full esteem and honor, and it's brightly shining for the peoples. And that's not when our Mashiach is present in the earth, so that's when the moon in the night is fully luminescent. That's the picture there. In the same way, when they transgress and when there's error, it caused problems, and the esteem of that place was fading. The light went away. It says throughout the scriptures that the moon is made for the diversity of seasons, and that by her waxing and waning is for the nourishment and growth of all that live, or all that exist. So when we take these things to heart and we compare it, why was she esteemed? What was the children doing? And then why was she made desolate? It's for our benefit and growth. Thank you for letting me do that. I just want to point that out every time we get an opportunity, because you'll see it right here, what she's saying, and then the benefit of that. Another witness to this whole phenomenon is in the book of Taffy, where it has the story of Zedekiah's daughter going to Ireland with Yirmiyahu to marry a son of Zerah to found the reign of the Ulster, the kingdom of Northern Ireland. It's the reign of the Ulster reign. Their coat of arms actually had the red hand of Zerah and the Mogen, or the Star of Dawid, on there, the shield of Dawid, to show that the two lines of Yahuda from Zerah and Peretz were joined together in the line of Dawid as well in Ireland. But to get back on point, her name was known as a little one. She was not very, she was lightly esteemed by her father. She was small, and she had a pendant of like a crescent moon, Taffy. It was what that was about. And the Hermon, or the largest landholder in Ireland, who was the son of Zerah that she married, he had had a dream that the crescent moon was coming with the rain, and it was going to fall upon him. I'm kind of butchering that. I'm sorry. But the idea of her coming to Ireland with the crescent moon, with the rain of the Shamayim dwindling down to almost nothing, that was the picture. And that was actually foretold in her travels there, which is a pretty amazing connection. But there's actually two books that you can find. Taffy's is the actual Irish bardic songs that were collected and then put into a book. And then there's another gentleman I just shared his book where he writes about it in a more scholarly approach, and he shows other sources also confirming the story. I haven't read that one all the way, but he wrote about her, Taffy, and he wrote about her husband. There's two books that should have fairly large amount of information I'm looking forward to. But with all that in mind, and then keeping in mind what the moon represents, we'll go ahead and continue. Verse 3. I brought you up with gladness, but with sorrow and heaviness have I lost you, because you have sinned before Yahuwah Elohim, and have done that which is evil before him. But what can I do for you? For I am a widow and forsaken. Go your way, my children, and ask loving kindness of Yahuwah. I call upon you, Abba, as a witness over the mother of these children, because they would not keep my covenant. So you can see this is our Mashiach speaking, not the Father here, but to continue. That you bring confusion upon them and their mother to ruin, that there may be no offspring from them. Let them be scattered abroad among the nations. Let their names be blotted out of the earth, for they have despised my covenant. Woe be to you, Assyria, who conceal the unrighteous in your midst. O you wicked people, remember what I did to Sodom and Gomorrah. And that the Assyrian is a euphemism for the later tyrant of the north who would persecute his people, right? And the Nicolaitans, what they do, Sodom, Gomorrah, that's the tie-in there. It's all connected, especially with what we see going on. All right. Verse 9. Whose lands lie in clods of pitch and heaps of ashes. Even so will I do to them that do not hear me, says Yahuwah Elohim. Thus says Yahuwah to Ezra, tell my people that I will give them the reign of Yarushalim, which I was going to give to Yisrael. Moreover, I will take back to myself their splendor, and will give to these others the everlasting tabernacles which I had prepared for Yisrael. The tree of existence shall give them ointment of sweet savor, and they shall neither toil nor become weary. If you're familiar with the recognitions of Clement, when he covers the part about the anointing oil with Aaron and why our Mashiach is called the Mashiach, he mentions that he was anointed from oil with the tree of life from the beginning, and that he anoints with that same oil everyone after their labors, so that they have this immortality. They neither toil nor become weary. Go and ask, and you shall receive. Pray that your yamim may be few, that they may be shortened. The rain is already prepared for you. Watch. Call Shamayim and Eretz to witness, for I have broken the evil in pieces and created the Tob, because I exist, says Yahuwah. Mother, embrace your children and bring them up with gladness, as does the dove. Establish their feet as fast as a pillar, because I have chosen you, says Yahuwah. And those that be dead will I raise up again from their places and bring them out of the graves, because I recognize my name in them. Fear not, you mother of the children, for I have chosen you, says Yahuwah. I will send you help, my servants Yeshayahu and Yirmiyahu, and according to their counsel, I have set apart and prepared for you 12 trees laden with many different fruits. He's saying that what we can find in the foretellers' books there will help us lead us to what's in Revelation and the tree that will provide us in the millennial reign. And 12 fountains flowing with milk and honey, and 7 mighty mountains whereupon grows roses and lilies. By these I will fill your children with joy. Guard and do right to the widow. Arbitrate and do right ruling to the fatherless. Give to the poor and needy. Defend the orphan. Clothe the naked. Care for the broken and the weak. Laugh not a lame man to scorn. Protect and defend the maimed. And let the blind man have a vision of my splendor. Protect and keep the old and young within your walls. Wheresoever you find the dead, take them and bury them, and I will give you the first place in my resurrection. Tobiyahu is a good example of that. Also, Origin, if you're familiar with any of the times, there was 10 persecutions of the early believers during the reign of the pagan Rome before its fall, just like there was 10 trials that Yahusuf suffered while in Mitzrayim. But the burying the dead and taking care of them is something that you can see that was done, and then the benefits of it in Tobiyahu, and also I just can't remember. I just said it though, so I apologize for that. So verse 24, abide and be quiet, O my people, because your rest will come. O you Tob nurse, nourish your children and establish and strengthen their feet. Not one of the servants whom I have given you will perish, for I will require them from among your number. Be not weary or anxious, for when the yom of tribulation and anguish comes, others shall weep and be sorrowful, but you shall rejoice and have abundance. And that's a theme that you can see over and over again. The righteous are delivered and the wicked take their place. The one who digs a net or digs a pit or puts out a net will fall into it and be ensnared by it respectively, while the righteous sing and rejoice and escape the destruction that's meant for the wicked. The nations shall envy you, but they shall not be able to do anything against you, says Yahuwah. My hands shall cover you, so that your children may not see hell. Rejoice and be joyful, O you mother, with your children, because I will deliver you, says Yahuwah. Remember your children that sleep, because I will bring them out of the hiding places of the earth, or Eretz, and show loving kindness to them. For I am lovingly kind, says Yahuwah Elohim. Embrace your children until I come, and proclaim and show loving kindness to them. For my wells run over, and my free unmerited favor shall not fail. If you're familiar with Second Baruk, we'd read over that already, and in that they have Baruk lamenting over Tziyon. He asked Yahuwah to take his inner being from him rather than to let him see its destruction. And because of his disposition, he was also taken to paradise. There is a psalm that's in the Dead Sea Scrolls called the Apostrophe of Tziyon, and it really covers that same aspect there. I don't know if that's it. All right, so I can't find it right now. I'll have to look for that in a little bit, and then if I can, I will let you know, and we can read it. But I don't want to get too distracted. It's one of the psalms that actually follows the Alephbet, and one of the keys to that, I would really like to go over it sometime with you and with everybody. But they have the parable, what you can read in the creation account, when you compare all the different versions that we have, which is in Genesis, Yobelim chapter 2, Ezra in this writing that we're reading, Baruk in second Baruk, the recognitions of Clement, Kepha covers it. And there's different places that talk about the acts of creation and the different things that were going on. When you look at those and you realize that he speaks everything in parables, he lines up in Yobelim, he specifically shows 22 works in 6 yamim, or 6 days. And if you line those up and you look at the works, he's showing you what he intends to do in history until the millennial reign. It's something that once you learn that pattern, you can take that in every single psalm that follows the Alephbet. You can see what that represented in that part of creation, how it applies to what he was doing there. And it's an amazing, it's an amazing thing. I've never even heard anyone talking about that kind of thing before. But you can do it with the Apostrophe of Tziyon, Psalm 145, 25, 35, 119. Every psalm that follows the Alephbet, you can key to what he was doing on that point of creation and what it represents. So the more you learn about these things, the easier that's to see. And then you can't be deceived about what's going to happen because you know the order of events. He's told us from the beginning. But moving on. Verse 33. I, Ezra, received a command from Yahuwah on Mount Horeb that I should go to Yisrael. But when I came to them, they rejected me and refused the commandments of Yahuwah. And therefore I say to you, you nations that hear and comprehend, look and wait for your shepherd. He shall give you everlasting rest, for he is close at hand, that shall come at the end of the age. Be ready for the reward of the rain, the Malkuth, because the everlasting light shall shine upon you. Flee the shadow of death of this age. Receive the joy of your splendor and honor. I publicly testify my deliverer openly. Receive the gift that Yahuwah has entrusted you and be joyful, giving thanks to him that has called and led you to his Shamayim Malkuth. Rise up and stand, and behold at the feast of Yahuwah the number of those who have been sealed. If you remember, his seal is the Ruach. He poured it out on all at the end of the age, which gives us the ability to comprehend these things. If you remember in the book of Gad the seer, in the Song of the Lamb, he talks about how intelligence is stopped up until he does greatly in keeping favor. And that's why the people continually backslid. They, they kept falling into error because they did not have his Ruach leading them into these things to know the certainty of truth. They were being led along by a trainer. Those who have departed from the shadow of death of this age and have received magnificent garments from Yahuwah, take again your full number, O Zion, and reach a final determination, those of your people who are clothed in white, who have fulfilled the Torah of Yahuwah. The number of your children whom you desired is full. Beseech Yahuwah's power, that your people who have been called from the beginning may be made set apart, or Kodesh. I, Ezra, saw on Mount Zion a great multitude, whom I could not number, and they all praising Yahuwah with songs. And in the midst was a young man of great stature, taller than all the rest, and upon every one of their heads he set crowns or diadems. But he was more exalted than they, which I marveled at greatly. So I asked the Melech, and said, Sir, who are these, my master? He answered and said to me, These are they who have put off the mortal clothing, and put on the immortal, and they have confessed the name of Yahuwah. Now they are being crowned and receive palms. Then said I to the Melech, Who is that young man who places crowns on them, and puts palms in their hands? So he answered and said to me, He is the Son of Yahuwah, whom they have confessed in the world. So I began to praise those who stood valiantly for the name of Yahuwah. Then the Melech said to me, Go and tell my people what manner of things, and how great and many wonders of Yahuwah Elohim, which you have seen. And this is chapter 3, the first vision. In the 30th year after the destruction of our city, I, Shealtiel, who am also called Ezra, sorry, this is Shalathiel. I said Shealtiel, that's the wrong name. I apologize. This is Shalathiel, and I don't know what this means or if that was his another name that was given to him or the context for it, just so you're aware. But he says, I, who am also called Ezra, was in Babylon. I was troubled as I lay on my bed, and my thoughts welled up in my heart. For I saw the desolation of Zion, and the wealth of them that dwelt at Babylon. And my ruach was sore moved, so that I began to speak words full of fear to the Most High Yahuwah, and said, Sovereign Yahuwah, who bear rule, you spoke at the beginning, when you did plant the earth, and that yourself did alone, and that without help, and commanded the dust, and gave a body to Adam without inner being, which was the workmanship of your hands, and did breathe into him the breath of life or existence, and he was made a living being before you. And you led him into the garden, which your right hand had planted, before ever the earth came forward. And you laid upon him one commandment, to love your way. But he transgressed, and immediately you appointed death in him and for his generations, of whom came nations, tribes, people, and kindreds without number. And every nation walked after their own will, and did evil deeds before you, and despised your commandments, and you did not hinder them. And again, in process of time, you brought the flood upon those that dwelt in the world, and destroyed them. And the same fate came to pass on every one of them. that as death came upon Adam, so was the flood upon them. Nevertheless, you left one of them, namely Noah, with his household, of whom came all the righteous who have descended from him. And it happened that when they that dwelt upon the Eretz began to multiply, and had produced many children and peoples and many nations, and were a great people, they began again to be more wicked and chesedless, or lacking loving kindness, than the first ancestors. Now, when they lived so wickedly before you and committed iniquity, you did choose for yourself a man from among them, whose name was Abraham, and him you loved, and to him only you revealed the end of the times, secretly by night. And you made an everlasting covenant with him, promising him that you would never forsake his seed. And to him you gave Yitzhak, and to Yitzhak also you gave Yaakov and Esau. As for Yaakov, you did choose and set him apart for yourself, and did reject Esau. And Yaakov became a great multitude. And it came to pass that when you led his seed out of Mitzrayim, you brought them to Mount Sinai, and bowing the Shamayim, you did set fast the Eretz, moved the whole world, and made the depths to tremble, and troubled the times. And your splendor passed through the four gates of fire, and of earthquake, and of wind, and of ice, to give the Torah to the seed of Jacob, and your commandment to the posterity of Yisrael. And yet you did not take away from them their evil heart, so that your Torah might bring forth fruit in them. He's speaking of the same condition that's mentioned in the book of Gad, I had spoken of just a moment ago. For the first Adam, burdened with an evil heart, transgressed and was overcome, and so are all they that are born of him. Thus the disease was made permanent, and the Torah also is in the heart of the people with the malignity of the evil root, so that the Tov departed away and the evil remained. So the times passed away, and the years were brought to an end. Then you raised up for yourself a servant, namely Dawid, whom you commanded to build a city for your name, and to offer you oblations to you therein, from what is yours. When this was done many years, then they that inhabited the city transgressed and forsook you, and in all things did even as Adam and all his generations had done, for they also had the evil heart. And so you gave the city over into the hands of your enemies. Then I said in my heart, are the deeds of those who inhabit Babylon any better? Is that why she has gained dominion over Zion? For when I came here, I saw the lack of loving kindness, impieties without number, and my inner being has seen many evildoers and sinners during these 30 years, and my heart failed me. For I have seen how you suffer and endure them sinning, and have spared those who do wickedness, and have destroyed your people, and have preserved your enemies, and have not made it known, and have not shown how your way may be comprehended. Are the deeds of Babylon better than those of Zion? Or is there any other nation that knows you apart from Yisrael? Or what tribe has so believed your covenants as these tribes of Jacob? And yet their reward has not appeared, and their labor has produced no fruit. For I have gone here and there through the nation, and I see that though they abound in wealth, and think not upon your commandments. Weigh you therefore our iniquities now in the balance, and theirs also that dwelt in the world. And so it will be found which way the turn of the scale will incline. so shall your name nowhere be found but in Yisrael. Or when have they that dwell, or when have they which dwell upon the Eretz have not sinned in your sight? Or what nation have kept your commandments so well? You may indeed find individual men who have kept your commandments, but nations you will not find. And the Melech that was sent unto me, whose name was Oriel, gave me an answer. If you remember, this is the same messenger, Oriel, the light of El, who's over all the luminaries and the one that instructed Hanok in them. But he said, your comprehension has utterly failed regarding this world. And do you think to comprehend the way of the Most High Yahuwah? Then said I, yes, sir. And he answered me and said, I am sent to show you 3 ways, and to set forth 3 similitudes or parables before you, whereof if you can solve one for me, I will show you also the way that you desire to see, and I shall teach you why and from where the evil heart comes from. And I said, speak on, my master. Then said he to me, go your way, weigh me the weight of the fire, or measure me the blast of the wind, or call back for me the yom that is past. Then answered I and said, what man is able to do that, that you should ask such things of me? And he said to me, if I should ask you how many great dwellings are in the middle of the sea, or how many springs are or how many springs are in the beginning of the deep, or how many springs are above the firmament, or which are the exits of hell, or which are the entrances of paradise? Peradventure you would say to me, I never went down into the deep, nor as yet into hell, neither did I ever ascend into the Shamayim. Nevertheless, now have I asked you but only of the fire and wind, and of the Yam, things through which you have passed and without which you cannot exist, and yet you can give me no answer of them. He said moreover to me, you cannot comprehend and know the things with which you have grown up with. How shall your mind, or how should your mind then be able to comprehend the way of Yahuwah Elyon, or the Most High, and the world being now outwardly corrupted, to comprehend the corruption that is evident in my sight? When I heard this, I fell on my face and said to him, it would be better for us not to be here than to come here and live without loving kindness, and to suffer and not to know and comprehend why. He answered me and said, I went into a forest, into a plain, and the trees took counsel, and said, come, let us go and make war against the sea, that it may recede before us, and that we may make for ourselves more forests. Likewise the waves of the sea also in like manner took counsel, and said, come and let us go up and subdue the forests of the plain, that there also we may gain more territory for ourselves. But the plan of the forest was in vain, for the fire came and consumed it. Likewise also the plan of the waves and the sea came to naught, for the sand stood firm and stopped them. If now you were to judge now between these two, whom would you begin to declare right, or whom would you condemn? Just before we read that, the trees of the forest are supposed to be those that take counsel, Etz and Etza. They're the ones that should know better, and when they try to take what's not theirs, they're consumed by fire. The waters, the waves, the ones foaming up their own shame that don't know better, they are stopped by the sand of the sea, which compels all men to dry out, which are the children of Yisrael. So there's a picture there if you can see that. But moving on. Verse 18. If now you were able to judge now between these two, whom would you begin to declare right, or whom would you condemn? I answered and said, each has made a foolish plan that they both have devised. For the ground is given to the wood, and the sea also has his place to carry its waves. Then answered he me and said, you have given a right judgment. But why arbitrate you not yourself also? For like as the ground is given to the wood, and the sea to its waves, even so they that dwell upon the Eretz may comprehend nothing but that which is upon the Eretz. And he that dwells above Hashemayim may only comprehend the things that are above the height of Hashemayim. Meaning he's the only one that can do that. And that's why he came down to make it known to us. But if you can recall, he also says, if you do not believe me concerning the earthly, it's not possible for you to believe me concerning that which is above, or as Kepha puts it, without limit. Verse 22. Then answered I and said, I beseech you, Yahuwah Elohim, why have I been endowed with the power of comprehension? For it was not my mind to inquire about the ways above, but of such as pass by us daily, or each yom, and experience, namely, whereof or wherefore Yisrael is given up as a reproach to the heathen, and for what cause the people whom you have loved is given up to unloving kindness of the nations, and why the Torah of our forefathers is brought to naught, and the written covenants come to none effect. And we pass away out of the world like grasshoppers, and our existence is like a vapor with astonishment and fears, and we are not worthy to obtain loving kindness. What will he do, what will he then do for his name, by which we are called? It is about these things have I asked. Then he answered, or then he answered me and said, the more you search, you will see. The more you will marvel, because the age is hastening swiftly to its end, and cannot comprehend the things that are promised to the righteous in time to come. For this age is full of sad unrighteousness and infirmities. But as concerning the things which you ask me, I will tell you, for the evil is sown, but the harvest of it has not yet come. If therefore that which has been sown is not reaped, and if the place where the evil is sown does not pass away, then the field where the tob has been sown will not come. For the grain of evil seed was sown in the heart of Adam from the beginning. And how much wickedness has it brought up to this time? And how much shall it yet bring forth until the time of the threshing comes? The threshing of the grape harvest, with the wrath of Elohim at the end of the age. Ponder now by yourself how great fruit of wickedness a grain of evil seed has brought forth. And when the ears shall be cut down, which are without number, how great a threshing floor they will fill. Then I answered and said, how long? And when shall these things come to pass? Why are our years few and evil? And he answered me and said, do not you hasten faster than the Most High Yahuwah, for your haste is in vain to be above him. But Yahuwah the Most High hastens on behalf of many. Did not the inner beings also of the righteous in their chambers ask question of these matters, saying, how long shall I expect on this fashion? And when will come the fruit of the floor of our reward? And to these things Oriel the Melech gave them answer and said, when the number of those seeds like yourselves is filled, for he has weighed the age in the balance. And if you remember, Daniel asks how long. In Revelation, those under the altar were asking how long, and they were told to rest a little while until the number fill up. Just so, same thing here. And that was also alluded to when Hanok, or not Hanok, I apologize, Havel, Abel, his name means breath or vanity. And when he was murdered, he petitioned our Creator, his nephesh crying out from his blood until his grievances were met. And he cried out until all the seed of Cain was taken out at the flood. He says, he measures the times by measure, and numbered the times by number, and he will not move nor stir them until the said measure be filled. Then answered I and said, O sovereign Yahuwah that bear rule, but all of us also are full of unloving kindness and impiety. And for our sakes, peradventure, it is that the floors of the righteous are not filled, because of the sins of them that dwell upon the eretz. So he answered me and said, go your way to a woman with child, and ask of her, when she has filled her 9 months, if her womb can keep the child any longer within her. Then said I, no, my master, that she cannot. And he said to me, in the grave the chambers of the inner beings are like the womb of a woman. For just as a woman that travails makes haste to escape the necessity of the travail, even so do these places haste to deliver those things that are committed to them from the beginning. Then the things that you desire to see, it shall be shown to you. Then answered I and said, if I have found favor in your sight, and if it be possible, and if I be worthy, show me this also, whether there be more time to come than has passed, or whether for us the greater part has gone by. Remember, if you have any comments or questions, if I'm going too fast, just let me know. I've read these before, and I see more than I'm saying because I'm trying to get through it. But when we stop, we can talk more. Or if you have questions, we can wait until the end as well. It's at your leisure. Right? But verse 46. For I know what has gone by, but what is to come I do not know. And he said to me, stand up at my right side, and I shall expound the interpretation of a parable to you. So I stood and looked. It's always the same. Whenever someone comes to the word, he tells them what to do, and their obedience leads to further enlightenment. And it's the same right here. He stood and looked, and behold, a flaming, burning furnace passed by before him. And it happened that when the flame was gone by, I looked, and behold, smoke remained still. And after this, a watery cloud passed by before me, and sent down much rain with a storm. And when the rainstorm had passed, the drops remained still. Then he said to me, consider within yourself, as the rain is more than the drops, and as the fire is greater than the smoke. But the drops and the smoke remain behind. So the quantity that passed was greater, or was far greater, but drops and smoke remained. And he's trying to show that the majority of the time passed, and there's only a little time before his advent there. In the same, we can look at it in the same parable. We've had most of the creation week is past, and we have a short time before his return. It says, then I prayed and said, do you think that I shall exist until these Yamim? Or what shall happen in those Yamim? He answered me and said, Concerning the signs about which you ask me, I can tell you of them in part. But as touching your existence, I am not sent to show you, for I do not know it. Nevertheless, as concerning the signs, behold, the Yamim shall come, that they which dwell upon the Eretz shall be taken in a great number, and shall be seized with great terror. And the way of truth shall be hidden, and the land shall be barren of true belief. And unrighteousness and iniquity shall be increased beyond that which you yourself now see, and beyond which you have heard of formerly. And the land which you now see ruling shall be waste and untrodden, and men shall see it wasted suddenly. But if the Most High Yahuwah grants that you exist, you shall see it thrown into confusion after the third shofar, that the sun shall suddenly shine again in the night, and the moon during the yom. And blood shall drip from wood, and the stone or the rock shall utter his voice, and the people shall be troubled, and the stars shall fall. This is a foreshadow of the coming of our Mashiach. When he died, it was darkness until the ninth hour, and then the sun suddenly shone. And while it was dark, the moon was during the day, right? Or the yom. I apologize for my dogs. Anyways, this is a foretelling about what would happen with our Mashiach, and then also what would happen later on with his body and the truth, right? With the stars falling, that would be his children walking the course set before them, and that's what caused it to go out to the nations. There's also mentions of stars falling in Revelation, which is the same event. It's also a phenomenon that we actually had over America in 1833 as a foreshadow of the falling of these assemblies by the infiltration. But moving on. Verse 6. And when he shall rule, whom they look not for that dwell upon the Eretz, and the fowl shall take their flight away together, and the Sodomitish sea shall cast up fish, and one whom the many do not know shall make his voice heard by night, and all shall hear his voice. Again, it's about the Nicolaitans, the little horn that would be coming, and the things related to that. All would hear his voice. There shall be a confusion also in many places, and fire shall be often break out. And the wild beasts shall go beyond their haunts, and menstruous women shall bring forth monsters. And salt water shall be found in the sweet, and all friends shall destroy one another. Then shall reason hide itself, and comprehension withdraw itself into its secret chamber, and shall be sought by many, and yet not be found. Then shall unrighteousness and unrestraint be multiplied upon the Eretz. And one country shall ask another, and say, has righteousness, or a man that does uprightness, passed through you? And it shall answer, no. And at that same time men shall expect, but nothing obtain. They shall labor, but their ways shall not prosper. These are the signs which I am permitted to tell you. And if you will pray again, and weep as you do now, and fast 7 yamim, you shall hear yet greater things than these. All right, well, that was pretty fantastic. I think I want to take a moment to stop there. I'm going to pause the recording. All right, thank you for having us back. I took the time to look up the Apostrophe of Tziyon. This was the psalm I was talking about earlier, and then I'd like to read it to you real quick, and then with each point, I'll point out what I comprehended to represent, and then we can go over that later. Every letter, the name of the letter the spelling of it, what it means, all of that, the works in creation and what they point out, all of that plays into what these represent. And then throughout Scripture, he tells you the rewards for them, where they come up, and they're mentioned, and different things. It's very, very interesting. I'll give you two examples real quick, and then I've already mentioned these before, but the sun, moon, and stars, Mem, Nun, and Samik, represent our Mashiach, the reign of the Shamayim, and the assemblies, the children of light that were set up after he came in the fourth yom of creation, when the light of the world was given a body. All of the things in creation pointing to what he would later walk out. So it is the truth, the bridegroom being given a form. It, it was all parables for that purpose. In the same way, the Aleph there, if you look at what an Aleph means, it, and then what it represents in creation, and then what they talk about, the Alphim or the Aleph, is those, the thousands that he loves. And it's those who teach and learn with their mouth to bring forth thousands, yoked together and trained. It's what our Mashiach represented in his person as the first thing. It's not mentioned, but he's the one doing that, spoke everything to existence and taught man in the garden with his mouth to lead him into righteousness. And then the reward for that is seen throughout Scripture as well. But these ones, the overseers, the teachers, the emissaries, the ones who teach men and bring forth many, are going to be like the messengers in the Shamayim, dwelling in near the Father. That is their reward. That's something that was in there, but that's what the Aleph represents, the teaching in the garden at the beginning. Bet is the creation of the Eretz. It's the work of combat to righteousness, what we're given to do in this earth after transgression. Gimel is the reward, or the gift, what goes out and comes back, and it actually represents the Yagimal is when a child is weaned, and the reward of what happened unto Adam was seen in his children. So there's a picture. Each one of these plays out like that, and also helps to teach us. So without further ado, it says, Aleph, I will remember you for a Baraka Zion. With all my might, I love you. Bet, and that's the Eretz, those that combat to righteousness in working the covenant. Right? It says, Baruch unto eternity is your remembrance. Gimel, we just mentioned. Great is your expectation, Zion, and shalom and your awaited deliverance is coming. Dalet is all the Ruach oath, or spirits set before him. It says, generation after generation shall dwell in you, and generations of the lovingly kind ones shall be your ornament. Hay is the abysses that were created. It's also, it reveals those that are wandering in astray in the desert wasteland. It's about what the watchers did. There's a picture there, or being driven into error with what you're doing. When you look at the word tohum and then tohu, with mem meaning them as a suffix, that's where you can get that from. But moving on, it says, they who wait unto the yom of your deliverance and shall rejoice in the greatness of your esteem. They shall be suckled on the fullness of your esteem, and your beautiful streets, and in your beautiful streets they make tinkling sounds. So Wa is the condition of man, the darkness that we walk in this age. Zion is, Hanok represents the enlightening, right? He was shown all these things. Adam was cut off like he had said he would be. The arbitration against Cain, all of these happened as the seventh work in the first Yom, a culmination of that, and that is a representation of the light, which is four-edged. There's separated by the darkness and the intermixtures. So there's a nice parable and a picture here with what happened in creation and what was happening in Genesis, or the creation account. Chayth is the firmament and also the flood. It mentions the loving kindness of your foretellers you shall remember, and shall esteem yourself in the deeds of your lovingly kind ones. Cleanse violence from your midst. Lying and iniquity, may they be cut off from you. Tet is the water courses. Yod is the seed and all sprouting things, which is his word that he gave to his people, right? Starting with Abraham. Your sons shall rejoice within you. Your cherished ones shall be joined to you. Kaf is the fruit-bearing trees and the trees of the wood. It's also what you're supposed to be like and resemble. How long or how much have they expected in your deliverance? And how much your perfect ones have mourned for you? Lamed is the Garden of Eden, in Eden and all, and it represents the, the time of Shalomo, or the millennial reign. It says, your expectation, Zion, shall not perish, or your hope, rather, and your expectation will not be forgotten. Mem, again, is our Mashiach, the Son, the bridegroom. Is there a righteous man who has perished? Or is there a man who has escaped his iniquity? Noon is the moon, the Malkuth Shamayim. Man is tried according to his way. Each is repaid according to his deeds. Samik is the stars. Your oppressors shall be cut off from around you, Zion, and all who hate you shall be dispersed. Ayin represents the sea creature, Leviathan and Behemoth, the first works of flesh with his hands, but the last beast reigns set up. And it represents what he's perceiving. As he sees, so we are arbitrating. Right? And that is, your praise is pleasing, Zion. It rises up in all the world. Pei is the fish of the sea and the teeming life of the oceans. Many times I will remember you for a baraka. I will barak you with all my heart. Zaudi is the birds and all flying things, the ones that escape the hand of the trapper. You shall attain eternal righteousness and shall receive birakoth from the noble. Kuf is the living creatures, like the monkey is a literal kof, right? Take the vision which speaks of you, and the dreams of the foretellers requested for you. Reish is the cattle. It represents the Reformation. The simple of Yahuda that confess, or the simple of Yahuda that, which Yahuda means those who confess, acknowledge, and praise Yahuwah, that guard the commandments of Elohim. That very definition is given to what cattle are in foretelling in one of the Peshars in the Dead Sea Scrolls, which ties into this very parable from creation to help confirm that this is actually real. There's a lot of evidences if you haven't been paying attention to that, but there's more that directly say these things as well. Sheen, or sorry, Reish is the cattle, reformation, right? The simple that guard his commands. Be exalted and increase Zion. Sheen is the creeping creatures. Praise the Most High, your Redeemer. And Tau is Adam, made in his likeness and image. He says, may my inner being rejoice in your esteem. All right, thank you for that. That was a little convoluted because I stopped and paused between each one. I was trying to point it out for everyone listening as well as those on the Zoom meeting with me. If you have any questions about those things, or if you have any comments or things you'd like to share, please do. And then afterwards, if anyone listening to this has comments or questions, if you'd like to know more, please let me know. This is something that I've been looking into for a while, and it is absolutely amazing. I encourage everyone to do it. The literal definitions of the words, the letters, what it means, the order of the things that were done, and how it played out in Scripture. It's all you have to do is look at that. But thank you for your time, and you have a wonderful Yom. Before I stop the recording, is there anything else that you'd like to say, or any comments or questions? All right. Well, everyone have a lovely Shabbat, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.